Okay, so we're going to set up some start animations. Firstly, we're going to put some animations on the character. I mean, if we play at the moment, let's have a quick look. Yeah, we've just got our single idle, and that's just the standard default idle. So we're going to bring in some animations. We can use Mixamo, we can use from other sources, as long as we remember to retarget the skeleton. So we'll adjust some of that. And also we'll animate this camera, because we might want to, when we actually start the level, be at this point, we may want to have the camera looking of a huge vista, a range, an overview of the entire level. We might want to be focusing on the character. We might want to be focusing on a particular object, and then when we click on start, we want to reorient the camera, bring it into this position here, so that we can actually start playing. So we're going to add those in now, and let's just quit that. Pause, main menu. Let's go. Okay. All right. Let's put that so that we play in selected viewport. Exit game. Right. Okay. Good. Okay, so let's think about the camera to begin with. Now, I think what I'm going to do, I've got nothing in this level at the moment, so I'm going to put the camera to about here, and hopefully get the guy, my player, about here. I'm going to sort of have a shot like that, start there, and then I'm going to reorient and then bring the camera back up to its normal position over time. As I say, you might want to start with something like up here, so that you can see the challenge ahead, or this path up here, or wherever you want to put the camera. You can just play around with the settings to make sure that it goes in the right place. And then, when someone clicks on start, you want to bring the camera back to its normal position, to its regular position, and then pass control to the player so that they can start running. So you've got a little pause when the camera reorients itself, and then we quickly move on. Alright, so let's think about how we're going to do that. Right, so I think the best way is going to be in the character blueprint, and we'll put everything in here. I'm using the standard, I've got the standard third person character, and blueprints. We'll open that up. And we've got our items that we've got in here. So this is all of our, this is the pause action. This is all of our controls, mouse input and all the rest of it. Alright, so that's where we'll begin, I think. And then we're ultimately going to need a couple of functions. One is to start the camera offset, and then one is to restore it. Whenever we start the camera. But it's important, I think, that we have a switch here. We have some sort of switch that we can say, right, I don't want to play, I don't need the camera whilst I'm testing, or I've gone into a second level and I don't need the camera again, resetting. So we need to sort of put in a little variable. This is the event begin play. Now we've already used it, we're creating reference to a HUD, but we need to, I think, add something on there, and we're going to offset, we'll add that on, offset camera if required. Okay, so we'll add this onto here, and literally I'm just going to extend that, and then we'll build it out of here. So I suppose the first thing we need to think about is, getting this variable in, making it, is the camera offset. So is start camera offset. We'll set that. I actually make the default yes, and then we'll put that there, and then get is it offset. We'll have a branch coming out of there, so we can have true or false. We'll plug that straight in. I'll just zoom in on that so we can see what's happening. Right, so is camera offset? Yeah. If it is, let's find out whether or not the game has started, because we might be going to another level and we don't want to offset the camera again, or we may do, but that's beyond the scope of what I wanted to do now, but you may want different offsets for different levels, so that can be done, but yeah, it's beyond the scope from what I'm doing now. So I'm going to get the game instance, and then we're going to cast to it, cast to my game instance, like so. And then we want to find out whether or not the game has started. So, has game started? To find out whether or not the game has started, then we want a branch, and plug that in there. Now if it's started, we don't want to do anything, we don't want to offset the camera. What we could do is build out of there and say, right, get the level name and then get the start position, and then offset the camera, but you know, I'm not going to worry about that now. But if it's not started, we want to cede control of the camera away from the player. Now it's actually the camera boom, it's this bit that we need to play around with, and we need to make sure that we're not inheriting the pitch and yaw, so we're not letting the boom control itself, we're sort of taking control of it. So what I'm going to do is we're going to take that camera boom, we'll drag it in because we want to start to set some of the properties of it. One of the things is inherit the pitch. Oh, I want to set inherit pitch. Oh, I've just done it again, haven't I? Set inherit pitch. Same again. Set inherit roll. Set inherit yaw. So we'll bring those three in. 1, 2, and 3. And we want to make sure that that's deselected. So we're coming out of the default state, we're not inheriting the properties of the boom and of the view. Yeah. Okay, and then we want to start thinking about setting the relative rotation of those objects. So the first one is the camera. So we'll bring that in, follow camera, and we want to set the relative, what's wrong with my spelling today, relative rotation. Just going to copy and paste that, because we want to change the properties for the camera as well. So we've got the follow camera here, and we've got the boom. We will bring that down and put that those two as a target. Now I already know the values here because I've tested this before, and there's only a handful of properties that I need to adjust. There's actually 5 properties that we need to play around with, which is the rotation of the X and Y and Z, sorry, of the camera, and then the Y and Z rotation, the pitch and yaw of the arm. So I'm going to set up those variables here and set up some defaults, and then we'll play around, and then you can have a look and see what they are. Okay, so I'm just going to create the variables first, but because that comes in joined together, I don't need to adjust all of them. I'm just going to split those down so I can address them each. So we'll split those by right clicking on them, get those options, just move it out of the way so that we can plug in some variables in there. And there's a few things we want. We want to let's add a variable. We're going to rename it. We'll set that to float, and then 2, 3. So we've got 5 variables in there. Right, so we want rotation X, that's camera, rotation X, Then we want camera rotation Z. And we want arm rotation Y. And then we want arm rotation Z. And then we want target arm length. Okay, so those properties, rotation X, arm, rotation Y, and all the rest of it, if we think about it, click on the camera, for example, they're these values here. So rotation, this is what we're playing around with. Y, yeah. I'll just put those together, back to 0. Yeah, so this is it here. So if we rotation Z, it's rotation Z, we're moving it that way. Yeah. Rotation X, we're moving it that way. So what you can do is set that up. So if I put that like that, save it, have a look in the scene. Yeah. Click play. Yeah, that's what we've got. You know, so these are the properties. So you play around and adjust the start position, so you can you know, amend and adjust those variables and put the camera in the place where you want. I already know the values because, as I say, I've tested this before, so I'm going to set up the default. So I'm just going to put that back to 0. You notice all of this, yeah, is on 0. Well, apart from that, which is 8.49 by default. Okay, but we'll put that back to 0. I might worry about that later. The location. Oh no, that's we're not playing around with location. But anyway, so it's just the rotations are all 0, which is fine. The other thing is length, by the way, of the camera boom. So there's a target arm length, and we're adjusting that. So we're bringing the camera closer and then further away as we go. But default's 300, and we need to just bring it back to 300. Alright, okay, so event graph, as I say, rotation X, you know, that's going to be 6.5. Rotation Z is going to be -24. Yep, so these are the start positions. Oh, hang on. -24. Arm rotation Y should be 16. And arm rotation Z should be 148. So let's just have a look there. 16, -24. Okay, so that's fine. Target arm length, we'll put that at a starting position of 220. Okay, so this is when the camera's offset. Apply those values into there. So we want camera rotation X, camera rotation, put that in there. Camera rotation Z, put that in there. Okay, so that's sorted. Yeah, arm rotation, arm rotation, what's that, Y, that goes in there. Arm rotation Z, and that goes in there. Okay, so that's sorted. We'll just bring those down a bit. Just keeping it neat. There we go. Okay, so we've set that now, so that's our starting position. Last thing to do is the target arm length. So we can get that, target arm length, and then here we want to, from the camera boom, we're going to set target arm length, like so. Plug that into the target arm length is now set to 220, and you know that's going to happen on begin if the camera is offset, and it is offset. Now what I will do is I'm just going to take this parameter here and I'm going to open it up, make it public. Okay, you'll see what will happen with that in a second. So we can play, yeah, Oh, hang on, that's not compile. Save everything. Save all. Here we go. Play. Alright, so we're not offsetting, but let's have a look. If we come down here in the details panel, select the third person character. Yeah, we've now exposed this property here. So is start camera offset. So we can play around with the default setting, you know, without actually having to open the blueprint. We just select it and away we go. We could, if you wanted to, expose these parameters as well to make sure that they're you can edit them without actually coming into this interface, which is you know, a handy thing to do. Alright, okay, so now we need to actually get it to start working, to be offset when we start playing. Right, let's focus on that. Okay, so if we have a look here, let's just go through here. Event begin play, my HUD is camera offset, has game started. Right, okay, so we're setting that up if the game has started. We don't want to do that, we want to have it as false and not have that one. So we don't want to offset the camera if we're already started. Let's have a look. Right, okay, so now if we play, here we go, we're offset, that's cool. Let's just bring that down. Okay, so when we start the game we're offset, but when we start, obviously we stay offset, and we don't want it to be completely offset. It would be difficult to control. So we need to start thinking about the next stage of this, which will be creating a function that's going to reset the camera. So we're going to start here. We're going to add a custom event, I think. Add custom event. We'll call this reset camera. Oh, there we go. Now we need to think about how this is going to be called, because this is going to be called from the widget, we first of all need to check to see whether or not the camera is actually offset or not. When we start, we click on the start button, so we can get is camera offset, and then we can do a branch. And then if it is, great. If it's not, we need to restore, perhaps, or make sure that we've got proper control, of the camera with it's inheriting it, because we potentially switched it off up here. So we need to restore those, and then we also need to move the camera over time back to its start position. So for this, we're first of all going to need to add what's known as a timeline. Now, this is how we're going to start to control our camera. We need to shift these variables, all these rotation variables, over a period of time, and timelines are an added function that we can use to do that. Now they're very handy, and you use them all of the time. We'll call it reset camera timeline. Now it's a bit fiddly, but once you get the hang of what you need to do, it's fine. I mean, we're actually doing 5 variables here, so it's relatively complicated. But normally you can just get away with 1 or 2, and they're relatively straightforward. But I'll just show you how it works. Right, so this is a timeline. If the camera is offset, which it is, so we've adjusted these values, they're not 0, we need to get them back to 0, do this, and we'll update something. What do we need to update? Well, this is what we've set up here, the rotation of the camera and the follow, the follow camera and the boom. So we need to set those back to 0. Now these properties are the ones we need. So what I'm going to do is we're going to get the camera, put that there. Oh, sorry, got the wrong one. Camera, put that there. And the boom, we'll put that there. So I'm going to actually construct this rather than worrying about the timeline for the moment, just so you can see what happens. So each frame, each time we're going to update, I want to set the relative rotation. I was saying that if we pull off from here, it will give us the context sensitive, so that we know we're getting the right one. Set relative rotation. Yeah. Copy and paste that. And we'll do that. And the target there goes into the boom. Okay, so we've got those. Well, that's cool. Alright, so the next thing we need to do is we need to set up sort of these properties, and we need to change them over time. So we've got camera rotation, which goes here, and then we've got the arm rotation. So on the timeline, let's split those open so that we can target them individually. Okay, so we've got that. Let's move those over. Right, so in here, I'll just save that. We're going to open up the timeline. Okay, so we've got nothing here at the moment. We've got no timelines. This is how we can, we will ease over time using a graph all of these properties. So we need to add them in to begin with. Now we're going to add all 5 in, and they're float values, so they're numbers. Yeah, so we're going to add 5 in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I'm just going to close them using these little arrows so that you can see them. So we've got 5 tracks here. We open that one. See, it's a timeline. It's 5 seconds at the moment. I'm just going to want like 2.4 seconds, so I want the whole animation to last 2.4 seconds. Don't want it to loop. I'm not going to have anything there. That's fine. But I need to add in a keyframe. Now I just want to name these appropriately to begin with. So that one, new track 0. It helps if we name stuff, so I'm just going to copy that, camera rotation, and then rename, put that there, camera rotation X. Now, just to keep things organised, I'm going to do that across all of them, so I know exactly what's going on. Rename, camera rotation X and Z. This one, arm rotation, I'm going to click, copy, here, right click, rename, paste, here, click, Control C, here, right click, rename, paste, here, click, copy, right click, rename, paste. Okay, so we've got 5 properties there. Now if we save that, compile, save, actually have a look back at our event graph, now we can see all of these properties here. Now they stay exactly where they are, there's nothing changing there, but we need to connect them up. So camera rotation X, we'll put that there. Camera rotation Z, we'll put that there. The rotation Y, we'll connect that over there. Rotation Z, we'll connect that over there. Then we also need the arm length, so we can take that, set arm length, put that there, and then the arm length that we've adjusted over time, can go into there. So that's that for now. What we do probably want to do is when we've finished, what are we going to do when we finish the animation? So we're updating it every frame. When we're finished, we've reached that 2.4 seconds. We're going to have something. I'm just going to type in RER, bring up a reroute node, because I'll put a point down there knowing that something has got to come out of this transition. I also need to make sure that even if we haven't got a start camera, that false goes into that node as well. So we're bypassing the timeline if we haven't got a camera that needs resetting. So if we start another level, or if we're for some reason we're in the middle of the game. Okay, so that's sort of set up. That's fine. We're all right for that at the moment. But we need to now actually change these values over time. So again, we'll do that in a batch lot, as it were. Camera rotation X. We'll open that. If we look at that, the default my setting is 6.5. So I'm going to right-click, add a keyframe on the timeline here. Where do I want it? I want it right at the start, so times 0. Value is going to be 6.5. So I want it to start at 6.5. Now, the scaling of this, it's gone right off at the top here, so I'm going to click on that button, zoom to fit vertical, and then we can see it up here. It's just hidden. That one is to fit horizontal, but I've only got one in there, so it snaps in the middle. So I'm just going to put the other one anywhere in there, and we've started this line. But we can adjust the position of that. I want that to be at 2.4. And value, I want it to go back to 0. So if I go click and click, we can see how that value changes over time. So it starts off at 6.5, and as time goes along, it slowly goes down to 0. Now I want it to curve, so I'm just going to right click on the keyframe, and make sure it's set to auto, and then this will smoothly slow in, slow out animation for the way it moves. So it's speed, the camera will move, it will speed up and then slow down as it comes to its resting position. So we'll do that on all of them and make sure that every little transition is at 2.4 seconds. So rotation Z, if we click on that, it's -24. So I'm going to do the same here. I'm going to right click, add, start at 0, value -24. That's fine, we'll just adjust it so that it looks. We'll add another key, that's going to be at 2.4, and then value is coming back to 0. So there we go. Bring it into view, auto and auto, and we can see we've got a curve. Okay, so those two are done. We've got curves there. We're adjusting those over time. Arm rotation Y, if we look at that, that's 16. So we're going to, actually we'll do it this way. Add one there, and then add keyframe there. That one we can put directly at 0. Time can be 2.4. That one is going to be 0. And the initial start value is 16. So if we fit the width and fit the height, there we go. And we'll right click there, auto, right click there, auto, and there we go, we've got that smooth curve. Rotation Z, default for that's 148. We'll add a keyframe there, add a keyframe there. Look at the values, that's 2.4, we need to bring that to 0 at the end. Here, we'll make sure it's right on the start. Value is going to be 148, it's going to scoot off the top. So I'll scale it vertically, and then auto and auto. And now we've got a nice smooth curve, smooth in, smooth out. That's cool. Now the last one, target arm length. This one's going to be slightly different because I'm going to need a keyframe, and I want one in the middle because I'm actually going to do something slightly different because we're bringing this away. So at 0, default is 220, so that's our start position. We need to go to 300. But that one, I'm actually going to bring it closer as it goes in, so it's going to go closer and then go further away as it orients around. So we want to set that at 118, sorry, 188, that's what we should do. Oh, not there. Target arm length, what am I doing? Default's 220, there. 188, we'll put that directly at halfway, 1.2. And then there, that one, 2.4, we'll bring that to 0. So what we should do, if we scale that vertically, alright, what we got going on? Alright, what is that? Value 220, 188, oh okay, the last bit, the last keyframe, doesn't need to be 0, of course we need to get it to its position away from the player, so that'll be back to its original start of 300. So yeah, so we start here and then go that way. That's cool. Right, that's 2.4, it's 1.2, and that is 0. Okay, let's interpolate this one. So we'll make sure it's auto, and then there, auto. Okay, so just have a look. Right, so 1, 2, 3. Multiple time values. Let's orient them. Yeah, okay, so that's sort of fine. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so target arm length, we'll go over that. We'll compile and save. So that's the timeline set up. Come back to the event graph. Yeah, so over time we should be doing all of these. Now, whilst it's playing, we really need to make sure that we're in UI mode. We can't control the player because that will start to get things yeah, really confusing if we're moving. So I'm going to go set input mode to UI only, and then I want to get player controller here, which will plug in. So we're input mode only. You know, player can't do anything at that point whilst it's updating. So we've got nothing there whatsoever. Okay, so here when we've finished, what we're going to do, we're going to take our camera, the boom, and we need to reset sort of control back to these. So you're just going to copy those. So we uncheck those. The default is with them on, so we'll put those there. Connect that up. Don't need that one. And then we'll put those back on. So we're controlling the camera. Just going to give a little delay after this happens, so we can just wait for the camera to sort of rest, and then we'll orient the player a little bit. We'll give him 0.4 of a second, and then we'll swap in. We'll give control back to the player. So set input mode, and we want game mode only, and we're going to let's get player controller again. Get player controller, like so. And we want to make sure that the mouse cursor is hidden. So set show mouse, which is not in context sensitive. And there we go. Make sure set mouse is set to off. So that should be okay. It's not going to do anything because we're not It's not going to do anything because we're not initiating it yet. We're not actually activating it or anything from the menu. So we're starting and we've got into game, but nothing's happening. That's what we probably need to do next. So this is going to be within our widget, I think, within the game menu. We need to start thinking about what happens when we actually click on the button, the start button. So let's go and find that. We've got that in Blueprints, and we've got the game control widget, and then in the graph, let's have a look. Let's close all of these to the right. So we've got our event graph. Now the one we really need to think about is start game. Where is that? Start game. Okay. So a few things. Let's bring that right over there. That's our function to actually kick off the game. We'll keep that, but we need to we need to activate. If I dock that here, we need to activate this reset camera when we do it. So let's think about that. First thing we need to know is whether or not the game has started. So let's get our reference, my game instance. We set that in the game instance. So get game instance. We'll open that, and we'll cast to the game instance. Let's put that in there so we know what we're doing. Just move those up slightly because we've got a bit of space. Okay, so we'll cast to the game instance. If the game has, let's get has game started. Yeah, if it's started, let's branch. From there, well, we need to get the player character and then reset the camera. So let's just move that over. We can get player character. We can get the player character because we've the hierarchy of classes. It's quite easy. Get player character. Class 2, our third person character, which is the one we're using. So we'll cast to that, and then what we want to do as that, we want to get the custom function, which is reset camera. So we'll reset the camera, and then after that, once we reset the camera, we'll start the game. So if we save that, now this may not work, there may be some things we need to just fix, but let's have a look. Save, make sure to save everything, save all, job done. Okay, so we start like so, we're offset, and that's cool. When we start the game, okay, nothing is happening. Can we exit the game? Yeah. Alright, so why isn't that happening? Let's have a quick look. Okay, okay, so it's quite simple. Again, same old mistake. I do it all the time. Branch here, game instance has the game started. True. Reset the camera. We don't. We want it to be false. We reset the camera. So save. Let's have a look. Start. Reorient. Wait for a couple of seconds. Now we play. Okay, so good. Resume. Swap level. So we don't start the camera on the second level, which is fine. Go back to the start level. So we're not starting with the offset camera. Pause. Pause. Main menu. Restart the game, and we restart with our camera reset, which is cool. And then start game. Reorient. And then we play. Okay, so that really is it for the sort of the first stage of getting this stuff up and running. Now we've got a menu, we've got a camera that we can orient around before we start playing. We might want to add a sort of an entrance, a logo sequence right on the front of this. So as soon as we click on play, we get a logo, which we can then cut through and come into this menu. So we might want to put something there. And then obviously we need to change the character. We need to start playing, and we've got a grey box. We need to obviously start thinking about how these buttons are going to look and stuff like that. Okay, so with all of that done, I think the next thing to do, if we play this, we've just got the standard static default idle that comes with UE4 third person template. Now we want to change that. We want to make it a bit more characterful. Now we know how to bring in animations to the from Mixamo and apply them, and there's a whole range of things that we can get our characters doing whilst we're waiting for somebody to interact, while somebody's setting the menus. There's so many, you can add a lot of functionality, to select difficulty, select the type of experience, all the rest of it. So somebody might actually be looking at this over some time, but what we're going to do is just sort of play around with some of those settings here. So we're going to come out of that. And we're going to start to have a look at the animation blueprints. So this is the third person character, and if we look at here, the third person blueprint, it's actually in the mannequin animations. I've imported 6 different idles here. So if we open up the character blueprint, we can see we've got this event graph, and we have a default state machine. So if we look here, we've got 2 different things. If you're not familiar with the way animation blueprints work, then please have a look at the your first hour with animation on the Unreal Learning course resources, because that will take you through how this works. But if you look at animation, we've got 2 sort of elements to it. We've got an event graph, which is fairly similar than what we've seen before in some of the other blueprint editors. See animation here, this one we're just using an update animation, something that happens every frame. We're checking the pawn, getting the movement, working out whether he's falling, and setting the speed variable here. So we've got a speed variable, is in air and speed. So that's fairly straightforward, but we've also got this animation graph. Now the way these works is that you've got this what's known as a state machine and an output pose. As I say, go back and watch the first hour with animation from the Unreal, if you're not familiar with this. But I want to sort of add some animations into this state machine. You know, this is the current state of my mesh, my player, and this is the output pose, what he's doing in the screen. If I double click on that, it'll open up the state machine, and I've got some states here. Yeah, idle run is the state that begins. We take the speed, we look at this blend space. Now blend spaces again are covered in the training, but if you double click on that, you can see, I'm going to hold down shift and just move this green dot. You know, we transition between running, walking and idle, you know, within that blend space. Now that's fine, but I need to interrupt the sort of the idle and the run, because this is what happens if somebody's not moving and hasn't moved for a while. This is the transition from idle to run, and we can see that here, because look, if we look on this little connecting link, we've got a condition. Yeah, idle to run, is he in air? So is the in air positive? And if we can, then we can transition into jump start. Yeah, so we're set on 0 speed already. Yeah, and you know, so we're idling, but as soon as we increase that variable, we'll start to run. I need to add in another sort of state here. Oh well, let's add another state in here. We'll call it idle. Connect that to that. Take entry and bring it up to here, rather than straight into idle run. Okay, so this is my idle. Yeah, so we've got it here. Now I need a condition, you know, and then we'll cross into this. But I know that that's only going to happen when we're speed is above 0. So I'm going to get the speed. I'm going to put a condition in. If it's greater than 0, make the transition. Yeah, go into the idle run, and then we'll actually start from idle going into running. So yeah, so we got that default. Yeah, go and then idle run if the speed starts to increase. Okay, so idle, what are we going to do? We've got no animations in there. Let's grab in one of these, idle 6, and we'll put that like that. So what we should see, yeah, look, we've got a different idle now playing. We've got this weight shifting going on, which is one of the animations, one of the various animations. But that's just going to loop, and it's going to do the same thing over and over again. I don't want it to loop constantly, just the one idle. I want it to be a bit different from that. And yeah, right, so let's have a look. We will use this function called blend poses by integer. Okay, and we'll plug that into there, and then we'll plug that into there. Okay, and we've got active child index, so we're going to promote that to a variable, and that's going to be the index, the number that we set of the ones that we play. Now I'm going to add it, because I've got 6 idles here, and I want to randomly choose an idle. I'm going to add a blend pin. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we've got 6 blend pins here, 0 to 5, just so that we can keep it all in nicely in order. We'll do it like this. Bring in 5, bring in 4, bring in 3, bring in 2, and bring in 1. So 1 can go here, 2 can go here, 3 can go here, and then connect them all up like this. So we've got 6 different idles, yeah, and they'll play depending upon whatever is being put into the idle index. So that's what we need to think about here. It's active child index. So we need to think about how we're going to begin to transition into this sort of state. Now, if we look at the event graph, we can certainly put something in here, and you know, we want to basically set this. So I'm going to grab that in and set it, and then I need a sort of an action to kick that off and change whenever that is. So at the moment, we want to get a random integer in range, which is there, and then we want it to be between 0 and 5. We'll move that out of the way, and then we need to think about, right, what action. So we could, we can't really, traditionally we would like add a custom event if we were in another blueprint, but we want those to be fired off when the animation comes to an end. So this is quite an important thing. We're actually going to set an event that's going to fire when an animation comes to end. It's called a notify. So I'm just going to open up this animation, and you can see we've got it here. Idle end. Now I've created that already, so we want to let's say I wanted to have a new notify. We've got idle end there. I'm going to right click, add notify, new notify, and just give it a name. Let's just I'll put test notify. Yeah. Bring that down. Yeah. And there you go. So we'll put it, and that test notify event will fire whenever the frame rate is here. So when we get down here, 0 to whatever, we're going to kick off this notify called idle end. Now I've put them on all of them: idle end, idle end, idle end. So they've all got an idle end notify on there, a little flag. You can manage notifiers instantly by looking here. And then adding them there, and then putting them where you want. But what it means is that we've got a test notify and we've got an idle end. Here I can go anim notify, and you can see the functions here. So notify, test notify. Whenever that flag is raised, we hit that frame, do this. So that's fine. For this one, we want to anim notify idle end. And when we do, we want to swap to another idle and play another one out of those 6. So we're breaking up just that static idle. So idle end, active child index, we're changing that. If we, let's just get rid of that. All of these have got the idle end on, so we'll save that and then play. Yeah, there we go. So we should see us cycling through those different animations. Yeah. Okay, so we've actually got, so I don't know if you noticed that the shoulders really shot back on one of those. I think we can play around with some of the blend time we'll probably see it again at some point. But we just want to make sure that we don't have any sharp movement. There you go, look. Just have any sharp movements. And the way we can do that is, don't need that anymore, don't need that anymore, don't need that. We need to be in this idle state here. Yeah, we've got a transition time, a blend time when we blend between, let's put that to 4, let's see what happens. And hopefully we'll get rid of some of the, the quick changes. Let's have a look. Oops, no, I didn't want to start the game, did we? We just wanted to. There we go. Right, let's see if we've got some shoulder popping or anything going on. Yeah, there you go. So that's a little bit more smooth, that's a little bit better. And we're doing random things. Yeah, I mean, obviously you can choose whatever you want here. There's loads of animations up on Mixamo. There you go, scratching his chin. You should look behind as well on some of them. Yeah, there you go. All right, okay, so I mean that's it for this sort of first part of things. We've got a menu, we've got a camera that orients back to third person perspective, the right place when we start playing, and we've got Mixamo animations and other animations that we can add in, and then to vary things like this idle. You could do the same with all the other states as well, the jump and the runs and the walks, etc., based on how you want your character to behave. Okay, so hope you found that interesting. Thank you very much.